Hey guys, in this video we're going to be exploring a bit of Granny Smith apples, and we're going to be using them as a replacement for mango. So I'm going to show you how to make Kuchela with this, and let's get into this video, y'all. Hey guys, and thanks for joining me for yet another video. In this presentation we are going to be making an apple Kuchela. It's super easy. The apple will obviously be substituting the mango because I do live in the colder climates and apples are more common than mangoes. So yeah, so we're gonna proceed in this recipe with apples versus mangoes. So I'm going for about 1 mason jar, or a regular size mason jar of contents. So I'm only going to use 3 apples for this recipe. I'm also going to be using some hot pepper. This was from my garden. It was frozen. I just took it out. I'm going to be finely mincing these peppers. This is 1 long bean pepper and 2 of these other hot peppers here. So we're going to be using a total. You're also going to be needing some garlic, approximately 1 tablespoon, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of ginger. You're obviously going to be using some Amchar Massala. We're going to start with 1 tablespoon and we'll increase as need be. 1 cup of cooking oil, right? As far as tools go, you're going to need a grater, particularly this side of the grater that shreds, a cheesecloth, because as you know, the apple produces a lot of water, and we're going to need to squeeze out some of that water out of the apple because we don't need it wet. We need it totally dry if possible, because if you were in the Caribbean, the mango would be dried out, or you can use a dehydrator, but I'm actually going to just be squeezing it by hand with a cheesecloth. And you'll need a measuring. So first thing first, what we're gonna do is we're going to be grating these apples all the way down to the seed or the core, and then we're gonna discard the core. Of course, we're gonna use these apples with the skin on because it gives it a bit more texture versus that softness of the interior of the apple. So we're gonna be just grating these down, all 3 of them down to the core, and I'll be back to show you what that looks like before we actually process it through the cheese. Hey y'all, so I'm back with that green apple that's been grated. Of course, apple breaks down and it turns into brown. Don't worry, because at the end of this, the recipe itself will be a dark color, so you don't need it to be green to keep that color. I also have my bowl and my cheesecloth that's ready here to be squeezing that. But before we proceed with that, what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a pot on the stove and set it on medium. So to your pot that's on medium high heat, we're gonna add 1 cup of cooking oil to it. So that's 1 cup measurement. We're gonna just be adding that directly into our pot that's on a medium high heat. I also had prepped my peppers that you saw. I minced them, so that's also going into the heat. As well as to that heat, we're going to be adding in our minced ginger. We're going to only be putting a 1/4 teaspoon of minced ginger, and we're going to be putting a full heaping teaspoon of garlic. So that's going in there as well, right? And the next thing we're going to be adding to this is we're going to be adding, so the last thing we're going to add to this, of course, is our Amchar Massala. So we're going to need about 3 tablespoons of that. So right after adding your masala, your Amchar Massala, you're going to give this a mix just so that your pepper integrates with your masala, integrates with your ginger, integrates with your garlic, and that's on a medium high heat because we don't want it to like burn or anything. We just want it to cook the masala and all these ingredients we just added. So we'll let this continue for about 10 minutes. All right, so we're returning to our apple at this time. So what we're gonna do is we are going to apply, I'm gonna do half of this portion of apple that I have here into my cheesecloth, and I'm gonna be wringing the water, the moisture out of it. So I'm just gonna give it a wrap to close it in, and then I'm definitely gonna be squeezing all this water out of here. So guys, I just got the last of the apple that's been squeezed out from the cheesecloth. So what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna use my hand and kind of break it open again. By the way, this is all the juice that came out of the apple. There's probably at least 2 cups of juice here. You can drink it if you like. We're not going to be using it for the recipe, but I'm just going to use my hand to break this back open again. So this is, you know how Granny Smith apples have a bit of tartness to it. So now we're going to just be adding a half a teaspoon of salt to this. And this part is not mandatory. However, I do like to include a bit of green seasoning. So I put in about a teaspoon's worth of green seasoning in here. And what I do is I mix these 2 ingredients in together properly before I add that. Guys, so I just now turned off the stove on my cooked Amchar. It's been 10 minutes of it cooking and, you know, dispersing of its flavors. Another thing that needed to be added was mustard oil, but since I don't have mustard oil, I'm gonna be using dry mustard. So I'm gonna use about a teaspoon of it in here. And because this is already an oil-based mixture, it should go very well. Yeah guys, so now where's the part where we add our cooked Amchar and all that to our mixture of apple. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna just be adding in our seasoning, and then we're going to be giving this a nice mix to incorporate that seasoning into it. So after I mix it in, I'll be back to show you what that looks like. So guys, this dish is pretty much done and ready to be bottled and served as needed on the side for sahinas, for there's so many different things, doubles, pies, so many different things you can use it for. Now I wanted to briefly show you one that I made over a year ago. And as you can see, the texture and everything is still very good. So it can last up to a year as far as I know. I think the only thing that it's slightly different a little bit. I think the difference is the mango the skin hasn't turned brown all the way yet like this one. But yeah, so mine was pretty much done. So I had to renew a batch. So yeah guys, this is how you make apple Kuchela. All you need to do now is put it into a container and probably a glass jar and seal it.